I am so excited to be here today with you. We have a 20-minute low impact endurance ride today. Today, we are going to be working in heart rate zones 2, maybe a little bit in 3, low part of zone 3, but mostly in 2 today. Today, our focus is really steady state, trying to keep that heart rate nice and even, nice and steady. We're going to be building some heat today, but by no means are we killing it in zone 5, 6, or 7 today. We're really going to keep the effort low. We're going to feel that building of heat within the body, and we're going to keep the cadence, the speed on your bike really nice and kind of varied a little bit, but we're going to add some intensity with the resistance on the bike to a point where we can start feeling a little challenge to our breath, but very much in control of our ride today. So let's go ahead and get started. Make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you have your water bottle. Make sure you have a towel. Make sure your seat is nice and set up so that your leg is not fully extended and locking, but that you got a nice little bend of the knee, and make sure that your handlebars are exactly where they need to be. Let's go ahead. We're going to get ourselves started. We're going to start by taking our resistance really low. So I want this to feel like you've got a little bit of pressure underneath the feet, but not enough that you feel like you are working really hard here. And that's really important. It's important that we stay nice and even with the effort to begin. We're going to have about a 5-minute warm up or so, and then we're going to build a little bit more intensity. So right now, this should feel really easy, comfortable, really nice and light. If you find yourself bouncing in your saddle, then I want you to add a little bit of resistance. I really want you to root into that saddle, get yourself settled in there. Try not to find any lift and lowering of the hips as you're riding here at this kind of really easy state here. Now, cadence-wise, depending on what bike you have at home, you might have a bike that has a meter on it that tells you how fast you're going. When I refer to cadence, I'm referring to how fast you're going. If you don't have one, I want this to feel like you're going for a nice brisk walk. So imagine you've got one foot in front of the other. It's nice and even paced. You can maintain this for hours if you needed to. So just kind of thinking of what works best for you. And here today, we're not going to be measuring specific numbers. I really want this to be more on a feeling of what is feeling and going on in your body. So just take that as your cue here. We're going to be really tuning in today to your breath, to how it's feeling with regards to resistance, kind of measuring where we are in our breathing as well. So maybe you do have a heart rate monitor at home and you're familiar with your heart rate zones. If you are, terrific, then I want you to use that as your gauge. If you don't have that at home, we're just going to kind of figure out how it feels within. So we're going to be tuning into how our breath is. Are we breathing through the nose? Are we breathing through the mouth? Are we straining? Can we really keep this as a really nice, even paced ride today without putting too much force onto it, trying to, as I call sometimes killing it, right? When we go to ride, sometimes we're out there to truly try to give it our all. Today's not that day. I want you to think of today as the day where if you're in a pack of riders, you're going to stay in the back. You're not going to be rushing to the front. We're going to let everybody else today go to the front of the pack. We're going to stay behind and just kind of trail and let them kind of get ahead of us. And that's really important. Sometimes we go to our fitness with these goals of really trying to kill it every single time we show up to class. Long term, that is not the most ideal training philosophy or training program. We want to be able to have these kind of recovery rides, endurance rides, low impact rides to be able to really help support our system in the recovery phase, as well as try to build up that heart rate endurance. So endurance rides are great for that because we start to build up the ability to add more resistance without impacting our heart rate too much. So I really encourage you that if you are someone who's doing cycling at home regularly, you are including some endurance rides in your programming. That is really going to be a game changer. I tell you from personal experience, it was a game changer for me when I started trail riding years ago. I've been an indoor cycling instructor for years, and when I started adding indoor endurance rides, it was a changer for my ability to add more power. So really encourage you to make sure you've got these rides in your programming. Let's go ahead and just kind of settle back into our seat. Make sure your shoulders are nice and relaxed. Try not to create any tension here through the body here. So cadence is fairly stable here. Haven't moved too much on the speed. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add some spin ups here. So I'd like you to maybe turn your resistance up a little bit. I've got a dial on my bike. I've got a spinning bike. Maybe you have a Kaiser at home. Maybe you have a Schwinn bike at home. Maybe you have a totally different brand. So depending on what feels good for you, some bikes have the resistance numbers on it. I don't. I just go by feel. So I'm going to turn up my resistance a little bit. I'm going to try not to change my speed too much right now. And we're going to be going in for 3 spin-ups. So spin-ups, we're basically going to be picking up a little bit of our tempo. We're not going to change the resistance. We're going to pick it up for about 30 seconds, and then we're going to lower it back down to where we are right now. Let's go ahead and get settled. Relax the shoulders. Make sure your knees, ankles, and hips are nicely aligned. So everything is nicely aligned. Our knees are not out here. Our knees are not in here. Everything is nicely facing forward. Relax the shoulders in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's pick up that tempo. Here we go for about 30 seconds. So maybe you're adding anywhere between 5 to 15 more RPMs, depending on what feels good for you. Remember, if you're bouncing your saddle, you're going to want to add some resistance on there. So make sure you're nice and glued into the saddle. Sits bones are nice and settled in. Stay here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow it down. Bring that cadence back to where it was. Nice job. All right. Maybe you'll notice a little changing of the breathing here. It might be a little residual. You might not feel it right away. Right now, you should start to maybe feel, depending on you, because low impact training in general on the bike is so tailored to the individual. So I want you to just notice your body here. Notice what's happening to your breathing. Maybe you need to go up a little bit more on resistance if this feels too light. So you're going to want to just make sure you have a little bit of pressure underneath the feet, enough to stay controlled, but not too little where you feel like your feet are kind of just flaring out and you don't have any resistance with them. So just try to make sure you've got that balance there. Not too heavy, not too light, a little in between. Breathing is going to be maybe a little different for everybody. So we're going to maybe start feeling a little transition of breathing from the nose and then instead breathing from the mouth instead. All right, let's go ahead and let's get ready for our second spin up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Pick up that tempo, 30 seconds. So there's a sense of control in the pedal stroke, right? As I'm picking up this cadence, I want to be able to feel like I've got something holding on to my feet on the pedal. Like there's a little bit of pressure on the feet. I've got control in my pedal stroke. I'm not kind of finding those empty spots on the rotations here. Stay here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow it down. Beautiful. So if you felt like you were kind of losing that sense of control in the pedal stroke, I need you to add a little bit more resistance. You want to be able to feel a little bit of resistance and control throughout each of the pedal strokes. Nice job. We're going to go for one more spin up. About 15 seconds or so. Now, as your feet, making sure your feet, it's a slight lift of the heel as you come up and over the pedal stroke. Ball of the foot's pressing down. So foot is pretty parallel to the floor as you're coming down to the floor. All right, let's get ready in 3, 2, 1. Pick up that speed. Beautiful. Maybe 5 to 10 more RPMs. Beautiful. Again, this is not a frantic pedal stroke. Nice and controlled. 15 seconds in, 15 to go. That's it. Just picking it up nice and controlled. No rushing. You got it. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slow it back down. Nice job. Beautiful. We're going to be here for 1 minute. So I want you to hold that same cadence, that same speed as you had before our spin up. Try to relax through the shoulders. If you're straining through the shoulders, let them relax. Soften the elbows. Make sure your wrists are pretty neutral onto the handlebars. Gosh, so much to think about, huh? I know. All right, beautiful. So a little changing of the breath, you might even be able to hear it on me. I'm starting to feel that transition from nose to mouth breathing. And that's really kind of where we want to be. We want to be able to talk, have a conversation. We're not straining on this 20-minute ride. We can have that fluid conversation. That's really where I want us to be today. All right, 10 more seconds. Beautiful. Good. 5, 3, 2, 1. All right. If you have a gauge on your computer, on your bike, and you can see your speed, I'd like you to slow your cadence down to about 70. If you don't, and you're kind of winging it, I want you to slow paces down just a little, and I want you to turn your resistance up just a tiny bit. So when I say a tiny bit, that's going to depend on each of your bikes at home. It's so hard because each bike, even the same type of bike, can be calibrated so differently. So maybe you're going up a full point of resistance. Maybe you have to go up 2 points to feel a little bit more pressure underneath the feet. So as you're here, I want you just to keep, you've slowed pace down, but you're adding a little bit of resistance. I don't know what I went up. All I know is I felt that 70 had a little bit more grip to it than where I was. Slow the pace down, but increase the resistance. So offset a little bit of that slower pace. Still feel very controlled here. So as I'm talking, of course, I'm using a bit of my breathing, but I feel very much in control to talk here. I don't feel out of breath. I can feel a little bit of heat building. Wonderful. Now we're going to stay here for another 20 more seconds. And I don't want you to touch your resistance here. What I want you to do is to pick up your tempo just a little. So when I say just a little, I mean, I just want you to go up maybe a little bit faster. Maybe you're going up anywhere between 2 to 5 more RPMs. In 3, 2, 1. Just add a little bit more tempo here. Resistance stays the same, so try not to change anything about that resistance. So again, because this is so tailored to each individual and their fitness levels, for some of you at home, this might feel really easy and you might not feel any heat building at all. And that's okay. You might need to add a little more resistance to meet it with where your heart rate's at. For others, you might need to take it down. And this is where I want you really to explore on this ride. We only have about 7 more minutes left. Where do you need to modify? Where can you add a little? Where can you take off a little? Maybe you just perfect right where you are here. Good. So keep that cadence. Now with endurance rides, we don't really get breaks. We just kind of ride through. So we're building heat like a pot of water on a stove. We start to feel the bubble, and then the bubbles start to come up a little bit faster and a little bit quicker up to the surface. So we're going to feel that bubble, but we're not boiling over by no means. We're not even close to that today. It's like just that nice simmer of heat that we're building in the body. Great. Fantastic. Now we're going to stay here for another 20 more seconds. And I'd like you to explore adding a little bit more cadence. So again, picking up the tempo a little bit more. Now, if you prefer to add a little more resistance and hold your tempo here, and that's the alternative you want to do at home, that's absolutely your choice. You can do that too. All right, here we go. We're going to pick up the tempo, or maybe you dial up that resistance just a little. But I want you to try to keep where your breath is at. If you feel like you're boiling over, you need to slow down a bit. Try to keep that breath nice and fluid. We're going to be here for another minute and 35 seconds or so. Nice and steady. Breathe in, breathe out. Good. So endurance rides, like I said earlier, were a game changer for me. Years ago, I started to incorporate 3 types of riding: interval riding, endurance riding, and climb riding in my schedule. My fitness level just skyrocketed. I started to see my output, my watts, just scream through the roof. And it all had to do with my endurance rides. Because my heart, as I was training my body, was able to take on more. So I had to work that much harder to get to where I needed to go without straining so much with my heart rate. So my power increased. I increased my power zones. You know, for the time, it was some small changes, but they were significant because it was all performance adaptations that had been as a result of the endurance rides. 20 seconds to go here. Now, wherever you're at, I want you to hold that cadence. Keep it here. Again, this should feel still very fluid. Really, the rule of thumb on endurance rides is something we can do for hours on end. So it's unlike a high intensity climb ride or an interval where you do it for a short period of time and you have to rest. This is one of those steady state rides that you could do for hours. Now, without changing your speed, keeping your leg speed exactly where it's at, take your dial and tune up a little bit on that resistance, just a tiny bit. So if you've got those dials at home, maybe you're going 0.5 millimeter to the right. I'm assuming you're going to the right. Make sure those knees are tracking. You're pulling them up, pressing down through the ball of your feet. Get some decent power in there. Feeling a bit of that resistance underneath the feet, but you've got so much control over this here. Nice job. You got it. Fantastic. So I know for myself, I get to a certain point in endurance ride where I start to shimmer. I start to feel like the sweat's starting to build, and then it's an explosion. And I start to feel that heat. You might be feeling it already. I know it's starting to build up on my body as well. All right, got about 2 minutes till we're towards the end of this ride. Nice and steady here. Don't lose that form in the upper body. I always want you to sit up tall and proud on the bike. Remember, you showed up, and that's huge, right? Because you had choices, but you chose to come to this. So be proud of that. Honor you. Good. Let's stay here for 30 more seconds. Good. Beautiful. Excellent. About 15 more seconds left. For the last minute of this ride, we're going to tame down a bit of the resistance, but we're going to pick up the cadence. So we're going to compensate a little bit. So take a little bit down, pick up that speed. Maybe we're going to go between anywhere 100 to 90 to 100, 110 max. Here we go. Dial back that resistance, maybe turn it a little to the left, pick up your speed. So you feel a little reprieve, a little letting go, a little bit maybe more back to where we started. You feel the resistance, but still very much in control. We're going to be here for about another 45 seconds or so. Breathe in, breathe out. Nice job. Excellent. Good. Stay with me. Got 15 more seconds to go. Excellent ride. Excellent. You guys are doing great. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow it down. Nice job. Slow it right down, but don't stop. I want you to continue moving your legs. Nice job. All right. That's it. That's our 20-minute ride. Let's keep riding though. So one rule of thumb, when you're riding, especially on any sort of ride where you're really building up that heart rate and you're really getting a lot of that heavy breathing going on, you're kind of in zone 4, zone 5. Even so, when you do that, or whether you do this ride, I want you to make sure you never just stop. Get your body back to balance. Let the blood continue to flow. Your body's kind of trained to go down to the area of the body that needs the most energy and most blood flow and most oxygen, which in this case is our legs. So we don't want to just stop. We want to slow the heart rate down, keep the feet moving, get ourselves really nice and settled here. Stopping really isn't ideal because we just want to ease ourselves out of it. So take a moment here, ease yourself out. Fantastic. Beautiful. And then whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and slow that cadence down, that pedal stroke. I'm going to start off by dropping my left foot down to the floor, sitting up nice and tall, taking that left arm up towards the sky and just gently leaning over towards the right, giving those hip flexors a nice little stretch here. Great. Come back through center. Go ahead and press down through that right heel. Drop the heel, lengthen the leg, take the right arm up overhead, lean over to the left. Beautiful. Come back through center. Now, many people do some back body stretches on the bike. I don't. I usually do them on the floor. So I'm going to come off my bike. If you want to do some stretches on the bike, go ahead and do that. I don't find it so safe for me on my bike, but I'm going to tell you, do what works best for you. So let's go ahead and get our quad stretch in. So standing maybe next to your bike, if you need some help or some support, go ahead and grab that right foot. Try to make sure your knees are tracking nicely with one another. You're opening up the hip, no upper rotation. So keep your shoulders square, hips square. Beautiful. Go ahead and release that right leg, kick it forward. So we're going to come into a hamstring stretch here. Right toes to the floor, toes towards the sky. Rest the hands on the upper of the left thigh. Press the hips back. Keep the back nice and long here. Brilliant. Come right back up to standing. And let's do a little hip opener here, a little figure 4. Cross the right over the left. This might be handy to hold onto your bike if you want a little support. Bend into the left knee. Let the sits bones rest down. Let the right hip just open. And then go ahead and lift up. Let that right foot rest. Take the left arm back. Square off the hips. Great. Let that left foot kick forward. Bend into that right knee. Lengthen the back. So I'm a little karate chopping from the hips here. Toes are coming towards me. The minute I start to feel that length in the back of the leg, I stop. I'm not going to go beyond that point. And I ease my body into the stretch. Remember hamstrings. I've had a hamstring pull. It ain't fun. So you got to be really careful. Nice job. Come right back up. Maybe cross that left ankle over your right knee. Bend into it. Sit down like you're sitting on a chair. Back is long. Lead with the heart. Nice job. Go ahead and press into that right foot. Lengthen the left leg. Shake it off. Well done. Let's go ahead and give ourselves a nice big inhale and exhale to close this off. When you're ready, sweep your arms up overhead. Lengthen the body. Press your palms towards your heart. Exhale down. And remember, give yourself a round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me for this 20-minute endurance ride. Keep riding. Keep chugging on. I'm telling you, the effort is worth it. One pedal stroke, one breath, one moment at a time. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.